Hey man, we have a serious problem and there's only one way to solve it. So stay with me as I unpack society's biggest problem, masculinity, and why the two options that we're given are absolutely failing us and what we can do differently. Welcome to Forge and Refined. For over a decade, I've been a fitness coach, a disciple maker, and I've worked with many of the largest churches in the country for everything from discipleship pathways to software. I started Forge and Refine as a place where men can discover a new voice of wisdom, a voice of insight that will challenge and equip them become healthier in their body, soul, and spirit, and become more impactful in what they do. In 12 years of working with men, I can say without a shadow of a doubt that there are many, many men who are hurting, broken, filled with shame. They're projecting self confidence excessively to cover up their imposter syndrome. They're lost, they're feeling purposeless, but they're ultimately struggling to hold all the pieces of the puzzle together. Like their faith, their family, their work, all of these things. So few men today have had the blessing of an amazing father to pave the way and provide a blueprint and a standard to follow. In turn, the church has more and more become afraid to provide a standard to men as well, and they're becoming confused about what they should even think about masculinity, what role they have to play in the world, and what purpose does a man have. As we dive in, let's contrast the two prevailing perspectives on masculinity. The first seems to be the loudest voice in the room right now, and that is those who want to remove any distinction between a man and a woman. In their mind, binary sex and gender is a social construct, and it's something that they can opt out of if they want to, and they can aim to influence all men to forfeit their testosterone because it's toxic. But in turn, they allow their women who want to be men to take that very same testosterone to become more like the gender that they say is actually a construct. And I don't say this as condemnation on other humans, but it is mind blowing how the devil has distorted gender. And the most prominent symptom of being deceived is that you don't know you're deceived. So we have to have compassion, but we have to address this head on. The voice of our culture says that men have no distinct purpose. They have no distinct role in any way that's different than women. And frankly, the logic is just confusing. They say men are no different than women. They say that a man could just decide to become a woman. In order for that to make sense, the former has to be false. The other voice in our culture is that of Mochismo, and this is that overcompensated response to the attempts to disintegrate what it means to be a man. And they end up creating this caricature of a man who drives a truck, shoot guns, is this high-powered businessman, or maybe they're a gym bro, they chase women, and maybe be found to be emotionally manipulative or even physically abusive. Both of these are disruptive to the way of Jesus and lack any real power and impact because they're totally contrary to the way of the kingdom. There's so much that we could talk about when it comes to the things that make up biblical masculinity and how to pursue health and the scope of that is way too much for one video, but suffice it to say that we will certainly explore the depths of that through more videos. But for today, I'm going to zero in on just a few elements that I think are critical condition, that are in critical condition for many men today. It's one of those things that we've got to address as soon as possible. All right, so let's look at Titus 1. We see here as Paul reiterates the qualifications for elder that he said in 1 Timothy 3. And he says that it's a noble thing to aspire to these standards, to want to be qualified. In my opinion, these are invitations to all men to order their lives around the standards that Paul lays out, which are simply a further look at many of the standards that we see in the life of Christ. And a few things that he mentions that I believe are often anemic and lacking in their scope or their description or application for the church is that of self control, holding firm to the trustworthy word, and being disciplined. So let's briefly look at each one of them in a new light. Self control is one of those things that many of us wish we had more of, but we struggle to really make market improvement on anything in this kind of realm in any lasting way. If we think about Galatians 5, it shows us, it's clear that self control is a fruit of the Spirit in our life. If we lack self control, whether it's overeating or poor food choices or alcohol or lust or binging TV shows or overworking or any number of things, that's an indication that we are not well aligned with and kind of being compelled by the spirit in our life. This points back to a need to address spiritual formation factors in our life that seem to be limiting or kind of disrupting the connection with and transformation of us through the spirit. Next, he lists holding firm to the trustworthy word. Paul says the goal here is to be able to give instruction of sound doctrine to others, perhaps starting with your own children and your wife, a topic for a whole other video someday, and also to rebuke those who contradict this sound doctrine. So I believe there's an expectation from Paul that all men should pursue to know the word, to explain the word, to defend the word, and that those who prove to be best at this are checking another box that is really important in the kind of qualifications of an elder realm. Let's wrap it up with discipline. This is the key to so many other things in our life. God gives us a will so that we can use it and strengthen it to help us enter into a lot of these processes more effectively. Dallas Willard's most popular work on spiritual formation could probably be loosely summed up as use your strength, your willpower, and your discipline to get you into the postures, places, and moments where God's grace can meet you and change you. Discipline is also the vehicle to great stewardship, which includes the stewardship of our body and our health, which is why that is a huge part of Forged and Refined. If we lack self control, discipline, and the stability that's found in being a student of the word, we will struggle with all other aspects of true biblical masculinity. This is what it means to be a man, someone who is disciplined in their pursuit of the presence of God, a life that is led by the Spirit, a depth of understanding of His word, and the self control needed to steward your body and pursue health. That is a huge part of what Forged and Refined is all about, but it's not everything. So over the next few videos, we're going to continue to unpack more and more about how I want to help. For now, just know I want to equip men to forge physical and spiritual strength and to refine their soul. Thanks. We'll see you in the next video.